Maverick News. The world is watching. In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Strange Bedfellows, episode 35. I'm Lori Spencer, along with Rick Walker, Maverick News. Good evening, Rick.
Hello, Lori, and hello, everybody. Great to be here again.
Are you coffeeed up? You got your big bucket of coffee ready to go?
Water, H2O.
Yeah, I was going to say, you had a wild night on Maverick News. I think Rick's had too much coffee tonight. It might be time to
We better
do
dial
the
it back
decaf.
a little bit.
You're going to mellow out a little bit. Everybody in chat was telling you, dude, you need to smoke a joint. I'm like, but Rick doesn't smoke weed. So to come down, he just drinks water, I guess. Cheers.
I'll be fine.
Cheers. And whatever you're drinking out there, I hope you got yourself a tall, cool one. And you're kicked back and planning to spend the next 2 hours with us. We're so glad tonight to have this man here. I've been trying to set up this interview for a while. I met him actually as a supporter of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He's part of our online community and ran across some of his posts on X, and I was very intrigued by what he had to say. And then I went and I watched his documentary film, and it just knocked me out. I thought it was so great, and I was intrigued, so I wanted to bring him on for a good long 2-hour conversation where we can really unpack this issue, because it's not something that you can cover in just a few minutes. It's very complex. Tonight we're going to have a talk about what's wrong with Black America, and most importantly, what we can do as a country to heal that self-inflicted wound that we created. Our guest is filmmaker Kenneth Jefferson, whose new documentary, Fatal Error, has been called the most profound film on the internet by Reelblack One. Fatal Error is a short film. It's a documentary that focuses on a major cultural issue within the Black community that many are aware of, but have either ignored it, especially in the white community. I think a lot of us have never really stopped to think about it. But this fatal error, he argues, has led to the destruction of the Black community from within. How? By glorifying pimp and hoe culture, gang affiliation, violent role models, gangster rap, drug use, drug trafficking, and a life of crime. And, you know, Ken has some really interesting ideas about how to fix it. And that's the most important part. So let's bring him in. Good evening, Kenneth Jefferson. Welcome to Strange Bedfellows. Nice to have you.
Hey, nice to have you, or nice to be here, better yet. Thank you so much.
You're joining us from the great state of Florida tonight, right?
Yeah, it's a crazy state, but I love it.
Well, you were just telling me things have been kind of crazy there this week, like they are all across America with these college campus protests and all the madness that's going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's been a wild couple of weeks, which we've been trying to cover here on the show, and we'll talk about that a little bit tonight too. But first, I want to learn about you. I'd like for our viewers to get to know you a little bit, and since this is a political show, I'm always interested in the political journey that someone has taken throughout their life. We were talking before we went live about our evolution. You know, you start out politically, sometimes on one side of the political spectrum, and you kind of make a circle around the sun over your lifetime. So tell me a little bit about your life, where you were born, where you grew up, and who your political influences were, and where you are now, how it led you here.
Yeah, so I currently live in Tampa, Florida, but I come from Cocoa, Florida. Most people would know that as like around Cape Canaveral, where the space shuttle goes up. My
Cape
dad
Kennedy.
still works. Yeah. My dad still works over there right now, married to my mom. Um, like politically, how could I say? Because first off, I'm a history teacher, right? Which we oftentimes have some interesting political ideas. Um, but I guess like my first really paying attention to politics was when Barack Obama became president because I was a kid. You know, as a black person, I see him become the president, and I'm not really paying attention to what's actually going on, like with housing crisis and different stuff like that. But you know, I paid attention in that moment, um, and I, I never like consider myself a Democrat or liberal. I guess maybe growing up, most of the people in my family were like pretty conservative because you know I come from like a Christian upbringing. A lot of times people that are Christian they lean right.
Hmm.
But I don't think that I've had a major shift in my political ideology because I've typically always been independent. You know what I'm saying? Because I've always like kind of analyzed things and I always saw things with Democrats that I didn't like. I've always seen things with Republicans that I didn't like. So I never have heavily associated with either, but I more or less would try and look at individual policies and see whether I agreed with them or not. You know, so like one of the first policies I paid attention to was like a lot of people hated it, especially conservatives, but Barack Obama had done something that allowed me to stay on my parents' insurance until I was like 25. I
Hmm.
liked that
Right.
one. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's that's
Health
that's me
insurance is
politically.
expensive. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I just remember
Hmm.
everyone else being mad about it, but since I was within the group of people that, you know, benefited from it, I was like, all right. But yeah, I'm independent.
I love that. I love that. So let's take a look. I've got a few clips here from your film,
Okay.
and I'd like
Sweet.
for people to kind of get a feel for what the subject matter is tonight. And this is a little bit a sneak peek of the film Fatal Error. Take a look.
What is a fatal error? I want you to understand how serious what is being said here. You could think of these words like a curse placed over the black community until the error is resolved. But I'm not the one casting spells. I'm just telling you the truth. In computing, a fatal error occurs when a device has a massive failure, leaving it unable to function properly until the problem is resolved. This is the exact state that the black community is in. There is a variety of issues within the black community that need to be resolved. Difficulties handed down to us through history. Instead of analyzing such issues, fatal error focuses on one particular issue that, if resolved, would start a mass awakening in the black community, beginning a new era for the black community unlike anything we have ever seen. True healing everywhere in mass. If the black community is unable to resolve this fatal error, then we will never rise as a people, only individually. And those who have led us to destruction will continue to profit from our deaths forever. So what is the fatal error? Just watch and understand.
How to destroy a Negro. Over time our tactics have changed. The ways of the past are outdated, and far too obvious. Our thinking has evolved and our methods have been perfected. The most effective way to destroy the Negro is to have them destroy themselves. Incentivize destructive lifestyles, reward ignorance, give large platforms to those who glorify everything that brings death, and allow them to inspire the youth. Our main weapon against the Negro is the Negro. Use their own culture to keep their communities in a cloud of ignorance, and never allow another true leader to rise. If carried out properly, even when a leader does emerge, not only will Negros not accept them, they will vilify them, while we remain in the shadows, profiting from their death. Fatal error.
What type of world would you create if you rewarded the worst type of behavior? What would happen if you gave massive platforms to people who glorify everything that destroys us? What if you elevated them and made them millionaires? What would happen if you did this for generations? What effect do you think it would have on the people watching? Would it have any effect at all? If you think the answer is no, then you're on the wrong side of our fatal error. Influence isn't easily measured, leading some to dismiss its effect and blame any issues solely on personal responsibility. Denying the effect that influence has on people is what gives it unimaginable power. Defined, influence is the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something. Influence isn't forcing someone to do anything. It's raising the possibility of them doing it by continually promoting something. Think of an advertisement that somehow keeps popping up everywhere. The company that's selling the product wants as many people to see the advertisement as possible. Let's say 10,000 people see their ad. Maybe 3,500 people entirely ignore the ad. But let's say everyone else either considers purchasing or actually does purchase the product. No one was forced to do anything. They were influenced to. But if the company never promoted their product, then no one would have purchased anything. So what has been promoted to the Black community? I want you to think of this in terms of advertising campaigns, because that's exactly what is happening. People wearing business suits while sitting in corporate buildings are putting together marketing campaigns centered around Black culture. Their goal is to expose their product to the masses in hopes of making as much money as possible. So what are they promoting, and who is their target audience? Would they target the youth? And if so, what message is being given? They use our own culture against us and have become wealthy doing so. Don't dismiss the massive influence that rap music has within the Black community. Rap music is by far the loudest voice that Black people have on the entire planet. Rap in and of itself isn't bad, it's just an art form. The continual promotion of violence, drugs, and disrespect to women is the issue. And this is literal promotion. Millions of dollars are spent promoting artists who glorify the destruction of the Black community, and faceless people in business suits are working to get the message out to the masses, acting as if there isn't a new Black child who's been shot to death on the news every day, entirely ignoring the fact that our neighborhoods are plagued with violence, continually promoting the disrespect of women as if many of us didn't grow up without our fathers. The house is on fire. You can't stop people from making whatever type of music they want. We have the freedom of speech. But why would the loudest message coming out of our most powerful voice on the planet be promoting our own destruction? Let me say that again. Why would the loudest message coming out of our most powerful voice on the planet be promoting our own destruction? This should be easily understood, but it isn't. And anyone who speaks any level of truth is viewed as an outsider. Hey, we're all stupid in here, and you're trying to make us not. Get out. There is an entire dimension of people that are brainwashed, and that dimension is much larger than you think. Maybe everything that's killing us shouldn't be the main message that we hear.
The house is on fire.
Damn, that's powerful. And you know, Ken, I think it's not just true of the Black community. I think it speaks to our society as a whole and our de-evolution that I've watched just over my lifetime. I'm probably quite a bit older than you. I'm in my 50s. I remember the time, not so long ago when I was a kid, growing up in the 70s and 80s. My Black friends were, before gangster rap came along, they were listening to pretty clean cut stuff. They were listening to Michael Jackson and Prince, right? Those were the hit makers of my time. They were listening to soul music and disco and jazz and blues and, more cerebral music that had a point to it and that lifted the community up. Right? There was all this emphasis on achievement because we weren't so far removed from the civil rights era. Their parents remembered a time when they didn't have the most basic of rights, and I think they taught their kids to respect that, to aim high, to do well in school and to achieve. So, I remember the advent of gangster rap, and I loved it. When I was in high school, I had one of the first copies of Ice-T's first record and NWA and wore 'em out. I loved it because I saw it as the poetry of the street, which is how it started as an artistic statement, but it's just devolved from there. And I don't really see a lot of artistic value in it today. I don't like the messages, and I don't like the impact that it's had on not just the black community, but the white community, Latino, and our country, our society, our world as a whole. So how about you?
Yeah, well, first off, I totally agree with you. And I'd like to share kind of how I even got to the point where I was thinking in this way, because
Please.
growing up as a young black man is difficult in a number of different ways, and everyone has their difficulties, but my one, it has a lot to do with what Fatal Error is about. I had a moment where I feel like I got pulled out of the matrix, right? Completely pulled out of it, because I make music, right? I've done that for my whole life. I make rap music. So I've also had parents that love and care about me, and were always trying to steer me in the right direction. There's no reason why I should have been doing certain things that I was doing. But I remember just growing up, and the rappers were like gods to me, because you're 10, 12 years old, and whoever the rapper is that's famous at the time, he has all these good looking girls, he's got the car, he's flashing all the money. And so of course I'm going to listen to them above my teacher or my father or anyone. And it's like, I wish people could understand how deeply that had an effect, that's the only direction that I wanted to go in. That doing those things, that's the only things that I wanted to do. Anything else that was outside of that was not important to me. And so one day, a friend of mine and I were sitting around, we're watching videos on YouTube, right? And we watched this one video. It's actually very similar in a way to Fatal Error, except for this is years ago. And it was just talking about how these rappers, that they're steering the youth wrong, and that, if they continue doing that, it's going to lead to destruction for people, right? So I'm sitting there and I just kind of start to think a little bit, and I'm like, man, well, I'm a rapper. Let me put on one of my songs. And we put my song on, and I was saying, I was promoting all the evil messages that video had spoken against, right? And it's like in that moment, I feel like I was literally like Neo getting pulled out of the matrix. And it's like I woke up for a second. I was like, yo, what am I even doing? There's a million things that we can talk about. Why am I so focused on all of these bad things that my whole family is trying to make me not do? And if that moment would have never happened, and I wonder what I would be doing right now, and I feel like I would be dead in jail. I would have some type of issues wrong with me. And that moment waking me up is what brought me here even today, or to make Fatal Error, because I'm like, this has proliferated across the whole entire community, and you can't speak out of yourself like that.
Are we losing his audio, or is it just
the
me?
audio's all messed up.
That's weird. Yeah, you were kind of fading out on us. Maybe you could repeat what you just said. Sorry.
Oh, what, the very last part?
There, that's better. Yes.
You can hear me?
Mm-hmm.
But what was the last thing that you remember me saying?
I forget.
More coffee.
Yeah, but
More
I was
coffee,
just saying,
please.
this it had a major effect on me, and I feel like I was pulled out of the matrix when I noticed that I was promoting those same messages that I shouldn't have been. And ever since then, I stopped doing that, and I've been trying to speak out against it. But speaking out against it, it showed me how deeply the majority of the people in the culture are brainwashed by it.
Brainwashed,
because
literally
they,
brainwashed.
Yeah, they fight against it.
Yeah.
So for the past couple of years at the Martin Luther King Day parade, I've had to go out there and try and raise money for students of mine that were shot to death, right? Almost every single year we have somebody that's shot to death, and we don't even come from that bad of an area. It's always a black kid. And it's sad when anybody dies, but when you look at the news and somebody is getting shot, it's usually a black person. And usually, you know, the person doing the shooting is somebody that probably looks similar to me. You know what I'm saying? I don't understand how we could be going through that and we have our children dying, and there's people that are promoting us killing each other. That in the video it showed that 12-year-old. That 12-year-old was my student. I knew that kid. I saw him every day, every single day. He didn't even make it to 13. And so even the day after he died, there were kids that were crying and hurt, but I heard them just like saying some rap lyrics, and it was all about murder. Like I monitor their computers whenever they're doing their work, and whenever I look at their computers, it's always guns all on the screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's just like, I don't understand why I should even have to say these things. Like, it should just be commonplace that these things aren't going to be given to the youth at large.
So where do you think this is coming from?
Yeah. Well, like Lori had said, it's like, it's not just the issue with the black community. Like, this hip hop might typically be more focused on black culture, but I think that there's a issue in the world in general that we gravitate to evil more than good. And I think that's part of what's happening. So the record labels, they will ignore people like me. Like, and it's crazy because I'm a person that actually wants to help, but they will ignore people like me. And there will be someone that is like, essentially sounds like they're possessed, and they're not even an intelligent person. Like, sometimes to me, it doesn't even seem like they're human to me.
But is it your premise with the film or video, your movie?
Yeah.
Is it your premise that there's some organized effort to destroy the black community in America? Is it like some big corporate conspiracy or a government thing, or what is it?
Or just money? Is it just the love of money talking?
Like, what is it?
So yeah, so I think there's different levels to that. Because like we're talking about, are they just doing it for the money because they know that that's, for whatever reason, that sells more? Or are they actually malevolent and they're trying to actually destroy the black community? And so the actual answer to that question, I don't know if I actually have a true answer to it. I think that there could be a level of which, like they've said that hip hop is tied to the prison industrial complex, and that it benefits people to be able to promote these ideas to fill the prisons up. But
it works. It works.
It does,
doesn't it?
But I'd have to categorize that as conspiracy because I don't know that for a fact. But what I do know for a fact is, you know, it's black and white and all different types of people that are within that industry that are working together and are pushing a negative image to profit off of it.
But I mean, I hear arguments that it's like the Democrats who push for abortion clinics because you have such a disproportionate number of black women and girls having abortions. So they, you know, people on the conservative side, I will point at that and say, well, that's a war on black culture, on the black community.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're conflating things, but this seems to be the same kind. This is a related question to your movie, which is there a conspiracy or an agenda there that is racist and coming from a particular group, whether it's a political group or a corporate culture or the government? Like, what is it in your view, or do you even know?
Yeah, so if I had to say what I actually think it is, because I hope that on the highest level that it's not that malevolent and evil, that it's like, hey, we're going to just knowingly destroy these people. I think that it's such a deep level of greed within that system that they're essentially ignoring voices like mine that are trying to actually use the culture to make change. Because what I've heard is they'll say, hey, well, that's good, but it's not going to sell. It's
So
not going
this
to
is
sell.
so this is art reflecting life or life. This is the question, right? It's the chicken or the egg, or is it
Yeah,
like
yeah.
right? It's like, are these business people just looking at the culture and then exploiting it, or are they molding the culture and driving these problems intentionally for some nefarious reason? I mean, I guess there's really no way to know, but
You know, I would argue, Rick, as a musician myself, and who's been involved in the music business most of my life, I would argue that it's life imitating art in this case, because like I said, I remember a time before gangster rap and hood culture became a thing, and the music had a very positive message, mostly to Black America. And you didn't have these kinds of images. I mean, you had some stuff back in the 70s, like Marvin Gaye did records about it, Curtis Mayfield, stuff like that. But that was like street poetry.
Yeah, but what's the seed of this today? It's like, what
Yeah.
caused this shift? Because it isn't even just, I would say, in the Black community. I see no moral compass in our society in general anymore. You
Yeah.
see satanic imagery and all this Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
So, my community is suffering. I see the ideology even here with our government in Canada, embracing things like medical assistance in dying. The view on these things has shifted. It's changed. Drug culture, they've decriminalized the use of hard drugs here in many parts of Canada. It's like total shift in attitude, ideology, morality. In fact, I don't know if we have any morality anymore. And you could argue that that's because we don't have people going to church as much anymore. So that could be a driving force. And then it could be, not. Then it begs the question again: is it art reflecting life or life reflecting art? I don't know.
I agree with Kenneth, and the point of the film is that it's what the corporate culture chooses to glorify. Like, go on Netflix and look at what's hot, what's trending. It shows about bad life choices, serial killers, violence. Same thing with our music industry, the sports heroes that we lift up, who are greatly flawed individuals, but that's who we glorify. So, of course, that's going to have an impact on our behavior as a society.
But if we as a society had more of a foundation in moral teachings, right? Maybe like the Bible, for instance, right? If you have a Christian background, then maybe the media would glorify that more because that would be popular. But I just don't know. Is it... Kenneth, I don't mean to steal
And
your thunder
Rick,
there,
I was going to interject because we're the old people here.
We are old. Well, I am. Anyway.
But sometimes we go back and we look at the TV shows that we grew up with as teenagers in the Reagan era. Go back and look at some videos on YouTube from the 80s. Look at the music we listened to on MTV, right?
Yeah.
Boy, does that look square by today's standards. We were square. Look at the way we dressed,
Look at the porn. I mean, it's
I don't know. I haven't watched any of that.
Accessible, right? It's just available online. It's on Twitter for crying
Oh,
out loud.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere.
I didn't even know that until recently.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
And even the rap videos are like porn, like soft porn. Even Snoop Dogg did he had a porn empire going for a while and put out porn videos.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Rick was saying. Like, is it the art imitating culture, culture imitating art? I believe is how you worded it. I think that it's a mixture of both, because like the things that we're seeing, that those are people from the community that are creating it. So a lot of times, like with rap, one of the key things with it is that you're supposed to be speaking about what you actually do and what you actually did. Now, I don't know whether they actually did those things or not, but what I think is happening is, like, I call it the ghetto lottery. They've created a ghetto lottery, right? A lot of black people, we come from the black community, may not have a whole bunch of money, right? And you have record labels that have millions of dollars, and in a moment they can snap and change your life and have you flying over the world, and you got millions of dollars and everything has changed. So it's like, it's legitimately like a ghetto lottery that everybody wants to be in. And when you have that lottery, but the winning ticket means that you have to say the most degenerate stuff, that you got to be the most thug, that you have to do the most drugs, that you sleeping with all the girls. Like, when they allow you to win the lottery based off of that, then you're going to destroy a community. So everybody doesn't have to make it to that to perpetuate it, because people start perpetuating it, hoping that they can get there. And then, like, those people in the community they're the artists, so they're the ones that are trying to attract everyone else. So even people that are not involved, it becomes the culture. And then if you speak out against it, so I've had plenty of times that I've, like, that's what I always do. When you speak out against it, you are hated. You're nothing. And, like, that junk bothers me. I've had a time that I was in a club, and I was performing one of my songs, and I made sure there was enough part at the end for me to be able to speak. And I said a lot of the things that I'm saying here. And I was saying, hey, why, if we got people dying, why y'all glorifying murder? And I screamed it at him. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to put on a show. And at the end of it, I say, hey, if you understand what I'm saying, put your hand up like this, right? Everybody puts their hand up, right? The next people to go on had the most gangster song in the world. And they said, hey, yo, if y'all represent what I'm doing, put your gun up like this. Everybody did it. And, like, this is the world that I'm living in. This is the matrix that I'm in. And it's like dealing with zombies.
Yes. Well said, man. It is like zombies. I mean, just look at like the protests we've been looking at on campuses across America recently. You see these chants being repeated, like, mindlessly by kids who probably don't really understand the meaning of the words. And they've even got these kids chanting in Arabic. And I guarantee you most of these kids do not speak the language and don't understand the words. They don't even know what they're getting into. It's not so unlike that. I did want to put a plug in for your GoFundMe. You know, people, I think people should understand that you did this movie as a labor of love. You know, you're not getting paid. This is something that you're doing with your heart and your soul and your spare time. And he does have a GoFundMe, folks, because he wants to do more episodes, more short films. My mic stand just fell over. Hate it when that happens. And give him a follow on Twitter, too. We got the address there at the bottom of the screen, and a link to his GoFundMe is in the video description, because I think this man is on a righteous mission, and he deserves your support.
I appreciate that.
I believe in what you're doing. I really do. It's a message that not just the black community needs to hear. I think we all need to hear it.
So that's actually the question: is what are you doing? Or more precisely, is maybe more broadly, what's the solution? And is like your documentary meant to be part of the solution?
Yeah, definitely. So, like, the documentary it's all of my ideology about this package in a pretty quick, and it's supposed to look kind of interesting. What I was hoping would happen is that the documentary would go viral, and then that would help me raise the money for the GoFundMe that I have. Because, like I'm saying, they promote, with billions and billions of dollars, they promote violence and horrible stuff to the community. And so with my GoFundMe, it's almost like David and Goliath in a way. I'm trying to raise some money so I can be able to put my message, so I can promote my message out there. And I believe that, if it really takes hold, that it will start a mass awakening and people will start waking up, similar to the way that I did. But The other part of the solution is this, because and I deeply appreciate being here with you guys, but one thing that I've noticed is that when I speak intelligently about this with people that obviously understand, it never bleeds through into that dimension. It doesn't. I've tried to do this in so many different ways. It never bleeds through into the dimension of people that actually need to hear it and understand it. They
Right.
won't even listen to it. It'll sound lame. What I believe has to happen is that you have to have a Trojan horse. And so that's why I'm trying to raise the money, because I'm trying to be the Trojan horse. I understand that type of lifestyle, and I want to fight against it, and I make music. So I believe that if I'm able to get myself out there, if I'm able to promote myself out there, without just directly speaking to them in the way that I am right now, that if I can get to a higher position, then I can speak out against it, and then people will actually listen. And I think that if I'm able to do that, then I can start a mass awakening and people start waking up. Because it's actually what we're talking about is actually very simple. Like, there's too many people dying in the hood. You shouldn't promote violence with millions of dollars.
And speaking of violence in the hood, there's something about black culture today that baffles me, because it just didn't happen when I was in school. This is a pretty recent phenomenon. Maybe you can explain it to me, because you teach middle school, right?
Yep.
Middle school teacher. So you're dealing with kids of that age group, and it gets younger and younger and younger, the violent behavior that we see.
Yeah.
What is the deal with the gang fighting culture? Like, you posted this video. I'm going to play a quick video that you recently posted on your Twitter, and we see this every day in cities and schools across America. This is kind of the norm. And the cops are there, and they didn't even care. They're still swinging. I mean, they're like
Yeah.
back in the day, if the cops showed up, everybody would scatter if they were having a fight. They'd run because they didn't want to go to jail. But these kids, they don't give a damn that the cops are there.
Yeah.
They just keep right on fighting. And another thing I don't understand, maybe you can make it make sense. Why are so many girls involved in it? It seems to be like a thing in girl culture, is the gang fighting.
Yeah.
What
I
the
mean,
hell?
we've glorified it and popularized it, and we glorify the people that make ignorance cool. And so
Right?
it's like, I feel like with we've seen a proliferation of technology over the past 10-15 years, and with that, it's really helped push and promote that message. These kids get clout from that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they get
I
more
see.
popular from that, and there's nothing that they're listening to, because a lot of times they don't want to listen to me. There's nothing that they're listening to that's telling them not to be like that. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And we see these videos, especially if you're on X, formerly known as Twitter. We see these videos all the time. They post them all the time, and I see people constantly posting videos of black people doing junk like that. And I'll look into the comments, and the comments are like filled with hatred and racism towards
Yep.
black people, right?
Yeah.
And it that does bother me.
course.
Before
Me
it
too.
was popular for them to post those videos, I was posting those videos. You know what I'm saying? Before it was popular, because it feels like they've become comfortable with posting them, right? And that's fine. I was posting the videos as well, trying to raise awareness about like a mass ignorance that is taking place that we need to do something about. And so, like, another thing with fatal error that I really don't think that people understand is, I'm saying that if I get some help, that we might be able to actually start to erode away at that type of culture. So I'd go into those spaces because they get like videos like that get super high engagement with conservatives. They get super high engagement. I would go into those spaces and they're just tearing black people apart. They all whatever racist stuff they could say, and I go in there because I don't perpetuate racism towards any group, right? I go in there and I'm just being humble, and I would post fatal error, or I'd be like, hey, you know what? Instead of hating, why don't you try and support somebody that's fighting against the culture? And I never would be able to get any traction. But yeah, I hate that, John. I don't
Yeah.
defend that. I can't. I'm not going to defend that.
Well,
You know,
some of
and
these kids are getting seriously hurt. Like
Oh yeah.
we covered that. We covered it quite a bit here at Maverick News. That big gang fight in St.
Mm-hmm.
Louis recently, and again, this wasn't all black people. The white kids are involved in this gang fight culture too, and some white girl thought she was street, thought she was hood, thought she was going to
Kaylee
take on a girl
Gaines.
twice her size. Kaylee, yeah. What was her
You're talking
last
about-
name?
was that the girl that got
Jane.
bashed against the
Yeah, she got her head
Yeah.
bashed into
Mhm. Yeah.
the street several times, and now
It's
she's
attempted murder.
probably brain damaged for the rest of her
Yeah.
life. They could have killed her. And you know, a lot
murder.
of these gang fights end with gunfire popping off.
Yeah.
Usually somebody's got a gun, and
Mhm.
somebody gets shot, somebody gets killed, and it's teenagers.
Yeah.
They're just
We're
kids.
losing control. We're losing control of it. If we don't get control of it now, it's only going to get worse.
The house is on fire. Just
It
like your
is.
film says, man, the house is on fire. It is at critical levels, you know. We can no longer ignore this. And yet, because people are making money off of it, like your film points out, of course there's no desire to address it.
Yeah.
Right?
They don't care.
They don't
And I just,
care.
man, I really do wish, and I tried my best, and it really did hurt, but it's like I really do wish I was able to get conservatives to actually pick it up, because even when I made it, and because this hurts me to say, but even when I made it, I knew that they would be the group that would probably be most sympathetic to it, because they're the group that's mostly like, they're always posting about black culture and it needing to fix and change, and they're always saying that black people aren't calling it out. And when I hear that, when they say black people aren't calling it out, it's like it explodes in my head, because I spent years doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I
You're
would
like,
think
I am.
yeah, and I'm like,
I
so
am.
look, so you're not gonna bring me in, rather that's just you watching this thing or doing anything, and I'm actually on the ground level, because those people, they're not in my dimension. Not even last week, just a couple of days ago, I was talking to a young man that's getting in too much trouble, thinks that he's a thug, and me and another one of the teachers is in there screaming at this kid, trying to wake him up. Like, we're actually on the ground level trying to make change, and there's not enough of my own people that want to hop on and make change, because a lot of them are stuck within that system. There's a lot of them that are not stuck within that system, but one thing I will say is, I'm sorry if I'm just going on and on. but I'm
No,
passionate
you're
about
good.
this.
I
Like,
love it. Keep
one thing with black people, because there's a lot of black people that are completely against it, and we talk amongst each other all the time. One thing about us is that there's a certain point where we're done fighting it. And me being here now, like, I'm at the end of my road. I don't have kids yet, but I am married. My wife wants to have a kid. And if I delete caring about this at all from my life, there's freedom there. There's me not having to deal with this kid that wants to be a thug, or the fact that these people, they're posting all the crime, but they're not helping me. Like, it's like deleting a whole negative thing that I'm trying to change that I can't. So that's what a lot of black people do, is that we just completely shut that world off and be like, okay, well, yeah, we know it's not all black people, but we're just going to go ahead and be the successful ones, and we're going to ignore the rest of it. And I'm at the point where it's like, if I'm not able to get some type of more support, I'm going to shut it off. And it'll hurt a little bit, but I will live a good life. I'll be a good father. I'll be a faithful husband. I won't have to worry about this junk, because it might just be a dimension of hell that is unstoppable.
It's got to be frustrating being a teacher, these days, and I have a couple of questions on that I'm
All
curious
right.
about. First question is, do you think, because you deal directly with the parents sometimes of these
Yeah.
children, do you think that,
Mhm.
the question we always ask when we see videos like the one I just showed of the gang fighting, people always ask, well, where are the parents? Where did they learn this? Do you see parenting as part of the problem?
Definitely. Yo, I'm gonna be blunt, most of the parents don't give a crap. The kids that are the worst are the ones that are almost always in school because the parents don't want them at home. Kids don't, I mean, the parents don't care. Like, they won't pick up the phone when you're calling. They think that you're a nuisance.
Wow.
There's some parents that have kids that are wild and out and they do care, and they're all it's like this constant fight. But sometimes those kids end up waking up. That's what I was. But majority of them, I don't know. There's something that they're doing wrong.
Yeah. Do you think it's because the parents are involved in drug and gang and hoe culture too?
Um, not necessarily very deeply, but I feel like they're just more focused on their own situations. And when you have me calling from the school and them getting notifications about their kids not doing well, like, it's just that negative thing that they ignore.
So
They
let me
just
ask you this
push it off.
then, because there have to be at least a couple of success stories, I hope.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you've made a difference in the lives of at least a couple of your students
Yeah.
who did listen to you and it made sense?
Yo, I had one kid, and he's an adult now, but I had one kid that, like, he really really thought he was gangster, and there was thugs that were trying to kill him, right? They actually were running up on the bus trying to kill him, and this is when he was in middle school. He's like in 8th grade. They were running up on the bus trying to kill him because he had done something he wasn't supposed to do. And I remember they wanted to have the police take him home, right? And like, I live in a completely different dimension. If you let the police take him home, that's dang near like a death warrant. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah.
that'll, like, if you think about it from the different type of mindset, if you
Yeah.
let the police bring him home, like, those guys are really gonna get him once that police is gone. So I took the kid home, right? Because here I am, you know what I'm saying? Like, I look like the thugs. So I'm taking the kid home for weeks, making sure that these guys aren't gonna do anything to him. And about 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later, he checks back in with me, and he ain't no thug. You know what I'm saying? He's doing what he's supposed to be doing, and that there's always success stories. But I think that I've just become too attached to the idea of me being able to change a mass of people,
Yeah.
that I just, like, it's never enough, because for that one, there's more that died. There's more that died than success stories.
Yeah, sadly. Like that 13-year-old that you were telling us about. Was he shot by another teenager?
Yeah, he was shot by his own friend right in the face.
Oh,
Right. And and it's like, it's horrible to say that, but I say that because I want to be shocking,
yeah.
you know, shot right in the face by a friend of his. And it said there's an open case, so I can't really even speak that much on it. But,
Wow.
you know,
What can you say? I mean, it just takes your breath away.
like, this happens again and again. These mothers, they're never, no mother is ever ready to have their child lost. And I've seen it again and again, that they don't have the money to even get a tombstone a lot of the times. So when they go out there to visit their child, I've heard multiple mothers say they don't even remember where he's buried anymore. You know what I'm saying? And like, that's one of the things that angers me so bad about the fact that they keep promoting this junk. Like, another thing I wanted to mention, years ago when I really first got into fighting against this, I went out and I was going to protest the death of a child. That was another 13-year-old child that was shot to death. I was going to go protest in the spot where he was shot, right?
Yeah.
And I was very mad. So, like, I know we're talking about before about how some people are like, a little weird or crazy. This is one of the crazy things that I did. I lost it. I was angry. Another child died, and I'm pissed off. And so I went around the whole city saying a lot of the same stuff I'm saying now, but trying to get the attention of all the thugs because I'm pissed off at them, right? I'm going to go out there. I told them what time I was going to be out there and that I was going to be protesting the death of this child. And I met the devil because I started getting death threats. And I thought that it was crazy because I'm like, here I am protesting the death of a child. And people are saying, oh, man, you gonna die when you go out there. I thought I was going to die. And I go out there and I got my red flag and my blue flag, right? And I don't know if people understand, what it means to put these both together. But it's supposed to confuse people because it's a symbol of how stupid and ignorant you are, and that you think that you're tough and you think that you're hard and you want to kill people over these colors. Well, I'm going to tell you where I'm going to be at, what I'm doing, protesting the death of a kid. I'm going to be wearing both colors, right? I started getting death threats. That to me, it was just another show of how evil and brainwashed the world is. Because I'm protesting the death of a child. Why would you think that it's okay for you to threaten me because of that? But of course, I didn't die.
Thank goodness.
But
we need you. Don't get killed doing this, okay?
We
need you around.
So the documentary focuses really on media, right? And the way media is influencing people. But again, like, when I look at these issues, I see so many things: the breakdown of the family unit, the socioeconomic problems, political problems, welfare programs that really are meant to, I think, enslave people more than liberate them or free them from the shackles of social programs. And you can argue that either way, but and even victim ideology to a great degree and I see it here in Canada as well. People from all cultures here, sometimes you get caught in that social welfare feedback loop, right? Generation after generation that really just learns how to survive within that system. And that's what their focus is. And they never are able to break out because they're never, they just either don't know how or aren't taught how to take advantage of opportunities. So the problems, it seems to me, are much broader than just a media issue.
Yeah.
You want to speak to that?
So you're totally right. So there's definitely a lot of more broad issues that are like leading people into being where they are. But it's kind of hard for me to explain, but I feel like people are like in different brains in a way, right? You're speaking in a dimension that is very analytical, probably paying attention to statistics, trends over time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to like disrespect anyone that's not doing that, but there's huge groups of people that like none of that means anything. You understand what I'm saying?
Because they're living within it, and they don't see a way out, right? They don't have that other perspective because their perspective is just like it's right there in their face. Yeah, they're living it, right?
Yeah, they're not thinking about it. So it's not that the music is the worst thing, but what I'm doing is I'm focusing on what they are heavily focusing on. So like you mentioned church and everything, and if people paid more attention to the Bible, then there would be more morality on the world. So for a lot of the people in the dimension that I'm talking about, their church, their religion is our culture. And so because that's what they're listening to. So any laws that come out about welfare or anything like that, or like let's say how welfare has helped to make single mothers because they'll be able to benefit from not having a man in the house, right? That is a thought that some of those people will never have in their life. And even if you said it to them, it wouldn't matter. But the culture is what they're paying attention to, and it's like on a much lower, more basic level. It's promoting the same idea of I'm sleeping with all these hoes. You understand what I'm saying? When people don't have fathers, but the guy that I am listening to is saying I'm sleeping with all these hoes. So I feel like we have to take what they're actually paying attention to. Like Black people, we are heavily influenced by our music. I think like all groups of people love their music, but at least from my own outside analysis of it, music is almost like religion. Hip hop's like religion in the Black community.
So if that is the area that you think needs to be focused on, or you'd like to focus on as a way to try to fix things, then is the solution then not to find ways to create alternative media that would promote positive messages, or do you think that you need to find a way to influence the companies, the labels that are already there, to change their ways, or a combination?
Yeah, I think that we have to infiltrate that system. I think that what we have to do is like create music that isn't like, if you just create positive music, they will never take it. You know, it's like trying to give a kid some vegetables or something, you know, like, so there, unfortunately, that level of individual at this moment isn't going to take it. So you just make music that is cool, you know, maybe make a whole bunch of love songs. You can make love songs, but you're not talking about I'm effing all these hoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, but make stuff that people can just listen to, but they don't feel like you're trying to tell them anything good, right? But you attach that to somebody, and it doesn't even just have to be me. I wish it could just be anyone. But you attach that to somebody that when they go out there, they're like a motor mouth and they're calling all that crap out constantly. So what it does is it's essentially fueling individuals that actually want to change the community and pushing us forward instead of Dum that's saying he's killing people.
Yeah. So
And
and I haven't seen your documentary at this point. Does it offer solutions, or is it really just focused on showcasing the problem to make people
it's
aware?
more it's completely about the fatal error, just to make people aware. And I'm hoping that the next step that I can go into is to fixing the problem. And I believe that to answer your other question from before, as far as infiltrating those systems, I believe that if we are able to really sit down and talk to some of these labels and the people that own them, that they might change some of their hiring practices. And like simply, if they did that, that would make the whole entire culture change. Because no matter, like with the ghetto lottery, if they said, oh yeah, you got to rap about whatever, and then they gave somebody $1 million for doing it, this is classical conditioning. That's what everybody would start doing. So I just feel like if we can get in there and show them that you can be something else that's not horrible, and still be able to make good music, and that they need to change it, like they'd be changing the world. And I feel like that isn't just going to stay in the Black community. If we see any part of our world that cleans up its area, then all the other areas, people are going to start standing up and cleaning up the dirt that's in their area.
So this documentary, I mean, it's aimed at just the Black community in general, or do you think it will also send a message to maybe politicians or other community leaders, or will it reach other people who can potentially make a difference?
Yeah, I mean, it's typically aimed at the Black community or anyone within the music industry that benefits from negativity. But like I said, it's like like this is a Black person trying to clean up our own crap. You get what I'm saying? And like
it reached me, and I'm not Black.
Yeah, and
it got my heart, man. Heart right there. In fact, let me just show you a little bit more. Let's take another look at another clip from Fatal Error.
How to destroy the Negro. When their house is on fire, give them gasoline, and have their own people instruct them to douse it over the flames. They won't convince the others without payment, so either give them money, or some gold chains. That's how you create some pawns. Have them come up with a trendy saying using their own vernacular, something like, make it rain, gasoline all on my house, and put it in a song. The Negroes love music and seem to have no issue when it blatantly promotes their own destruction. Of course, there will be some, watching the chaos, wondering what is going on. Why are people burning down their own houses and screaming make it rain, make it rain? The other Negroes will never listen. This is why we reward those who push our narrative. The Negroes will be so excited that one of their own got a gold chain for doing something stupid, that they'll be burning down their houses by the thousands. Never reward those who question our tactics. Never allow them to speak. Ignore them. The house is not on fire. Fatal error.
Make it rain, gasoline all on my house. Set your place on fire, gasoline gon' put it out. Make it rain, gasoline all on my house. Gasoline all on my house, gasoline all on my house.
In no way, shape, or form is the distributing record label trying to influence human beings or otherwise to light their homes on fire and attempt to put out the flame with gasoline. Too Dumb to Care Records is not liable for any damages or loss of life associated with the song Make It Rain.
Let's take rap music. Same people who own the labels own the prisons. It seems really kind of suspicious that the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
In real life, if you do or glorify bad things, there's death, there's jail time, and there's dishonor waiting for you.
Yeah.
In the rap game, if you do or glorify bad things, there's money, fame, popularity, and legendary status waiting for you. That's why everybody want to be a rapper. It's the OGs in hip-hop. It's the ones that's 40-something years old. I hate when I see these gray-haired clout chasers who still talking about, and I send my young boys to come and wet your whole block up, and da-da-da, and they still glorifying this. I look at with a Jim Jones, you could do better, brother. I love you too much. I love you too much to not be honest with you.
Miss me with the rhetoric about what I do in my music. I get money off my music. Don't tell me how to make my dollars. You gotta watch whose names you mentioning out here. Because my little cousin might not like how you mention my name. And then he might want to slap a dread out your head just because he don't understand that you using my name for fame and he don't understand that. It's out now. It ain't no best way to have a conversation. He got to see me when he see me now.
Over the years, a number of people have spoken out against the negative influence that hip-hop has within the black community, but we have yet to see any meaningful change in that direction. The hope is that society will wake up and question why death is being promoted to a group of people plagued with violence. Any such thinking never seems to continue past the interview, and once the cameras go off, it's back to your regular programming. The control that hip-hop has over the black community can only be compared to a magic spell, putting masses of people into a trance, where they not only give their attention to, but also defend nonsense. They'll say things like, it's only music, foolishly attempting to use 3 simple words to stop genuine logic. It's not only music. It's something that people give massive amounts of attention to. It's something that rewards the type of behavior that destroys the community. It's like a lottery for degeneracy, and whoever can glorify violence and disrespect women in the most unique ways gets the golden ticket. They'll say things like, there's violence in video games. Why aren't you saying anything about that? Yes, there is violence in video games and movies, but we're not seeing kids who play Call of Duty get shot up multiple times a week. On the other hand, black communities throughout the United States struggle with violence. Black men make up only 6% of the US population, but account for more than half of gun deaths each year. Black Americans make up the majority of gun homicide victims, despite only being 13% of the population. Sounds like a problem, right? Sounds like maybe we shouldn't be promoting violence. People defend foolishness while ignoring or attacking anything positive, and that is a fatal error. What happens if good messages never go viral again? How can we ever build when our attention is going towards destruction? What happens if we never support people who want to steer the black community in the right direction again? No more heroes. They were from an era that has passed, and with the direction we're heading isn't coming back.
So, I want you to sign with us, and you want to sign with us,
And we want you to want to sign with us. Now, let me ask you guys a couple of questions. Do you cuss on your records? Yeah. Do you defile women with your lyrics? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you, fondle your genitalia on stage? Yeah. Whenever possible. Do you glorify violence or advocate the use of guns as a way of solving civil disputes? Okay, final question. Do you guys respect anything at all? Not a goddamn thing. You got a deal. Yeah. Welcome to the family. Trust Us Productions. Trust us. Can't trust me, you can't trust us. I love it, I love it, I love it. Go, go, go!
Yeah, and that video, that's like 30 years ago. I love that video. But there's so much truth in it, right? Where they're meeting with the record executive, I remember when I first started out as a journalist, here's another old person story. In the 80s, I was a fan of gangster rap. But I was young and I didn't really understand the dangers of it. Mm-hmm. But our lawmakers did, and some people older and wiser than me saw that this was going to cause problems for our society, and there was a movement, an effort back then to do something about it. And of course, everybody's first instinct was to censor it. I remember when the Ice-T record with Body Count came out, Cop Killer, and President Bush, George Bush, HW, George Bush 41, made a big stink about it and got Ice-T dropped from his label. He was canceled. It was one of those first instances of an artist being canceled. And yet, it was a great record. I'll be the first to tell you, it was a brilliant artistic achievement. But, I remember the Parental Music Resource Center, the PMRC, Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, back when he was a senator. And they had hearings on Capitol Hill trying to figure out what to do. And they were reading all these, really salacious and violent lyrics into the congressional record, which was pretty surreal at the time. And they were essentially defeated because artists from all around the music industry, everyone from Frank Zappa to Dee Snider of Twisted Sister to John Denver, testified on Capitol Hill that censorship was unacceptable and that you shouldn't ever restrict artistic expression. And so the movement kind of died out, and all they got out of it was the little sticker that they put on the CD, with the parental warning, which everyone just ignored and bought the records anyway. And the problem got worse as we went into the 90s and the 2000s, and here we are. And it just seems to get worse and worse and worse. And I know that as an artist, you would probably agree with me that censorship is not the answer. It's never the answer. The answer is what, as your film points out, what the industry chooses to glorify. What kind of message they're sending.
Because we have the freedom of speech. You can't, that's the First Amendment. You can't get rid of that. But just culturally, like I know I keep saying it, but just culturally, you're very dumb if you got kids dying and you're glorifying death. You know what I'm saying? Like
it seems like a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's simple. It's very right. Like they're children, guys. They're children. But that's what's happening. And the interesting
and they are getting younger and younger and younger.
Definitely. There's a little like a second grader, I think, that had shot his teacher or something like that.
Yes.
But and
a lot of the times the violence is now turned on the teachers. Like the gang fight, they will gang up on their damn teacher and beat the crap out of their teacher. Has that ever happened to you? I hope not.
Nah, well, because I'm not a small guy, but not only that, but like one thing that's interesting for me in my life is there's a lot of issues that I don't have because I know that I look like the guy that everybody avoids. So like there's a lot of, and I'm a nice person. I care about people.
Yes,
I love, you know what I'm saying? But just being a 6 foot tall, like 220-pound black dude with dreads and tattoos, like people don't typically try and mess with me. So No, they don't do that.
I feel sorry for the little 5'2" female teacher. Man,
Yeah,
she's in trouble.
That they, crazy things are constantly happening. Crazy things are always going to happen, but I do think that society as a whole needs to kind of start coming to its senses. But I don't know how we're gonna. I mean, I think I know how we're gonna harness it, but like in actuality, that actually happening, which like if it does not, especially if we're looking at a biblical context, if we don't turn society around, then like we're in the end game at some point.
The warnings were all there, my friend, 35 years ago. That's what I'm trying to, I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, is even in the 80s, we knew that, the rap explosion was something really exciting from a creative standpoint. There was some great art that was made, and it was something that crossed over to the white community, and it was a message that we needed to hear, because how else are we going to learn what's going on in South Central or Compton or Brooklyn or the Bronx? So it was like a lesson to us. That's why we bought the record, and just because it jammed, right? Because it was a great record. But the warnings were there, and you've probably heard the song "Self-Destruction." It was one of the warnings from you head of us, self-destruction. And I wish I could play it, but we'd get a copyright strike. But it was like a coalition of rap artists against violence, and they were trying to warn their own community about the dangers of their own music. But there aren't enough messages like that, and those songs aren't hits. They aren't lifted up by the industry anymore.
Not at all. And it's like, do you know what would happen to me based off of me being here in the culture, like being on the podcast? What do you think people would think of it?
Why are y'all talking to those square old white folks?
Like I would, and this is what I'm saying, is that it's a whole dimension of ignorance, because you understand everything that we've spoken about. What we're actually talking about is just basic logic, but I would be pushed out based off of saying things that are like trying to inspire less death. And I look at myself as like, essentially it's like I'm a whistleblower. That's kind of how I feel, because I'm stepping outside of my own culture. And that's why I keep on saying that I appreciate you guys a lot, because I've been trying to fight this for a long time, but this is the first time that I have, instead of speaking directly to the culture, I've stepped outside of it, because I'm almost essentially being like, yo, I freaking did everything that I could, but I know that this group of people will understand, even though they're not the group of people I'm trying to talk to. And I'm trying to come over here to see, is there anything that can happen? Because I'm looking at this as like, I don't want to use the word genocide, but it's like it's like a cultural contagion, that it's a massive cultural contagion that anything that I've tried to do, I haven't been able to trigger anything different happening within it. I feel like it's a zombie apocalypse, and I'm stepping outside of it and saying, hey guys, there's a zombie apocalypse in there. Like, I know that you guys are saying not enough black people are calling it out. Well, I've been doing it for my whole life, and here are all these other people, and we can't stop it from happening.
But we have to work together, right? I mean, because and I know that the music industry is not run by black people.
No, it's not.
It's run by people who look like us. Mm-hmm. So that's why that outreach is so important. That's why we have to work together to get this message out there. And, I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about, speaking of censorship, the U.S. House this week, in response to the protests on college campuses, passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, which on the surface, again, that first instinct when something bad happens and we feel like something must be done, and there's public outcry, what's the first thing the government wants to do? Censorship. Which is essentially what this bill is. I mean, I'm against anti-Semitism. I talk about it all the time on the show, but censorship is not the answer. But let me just show you a little bit about the bill and what's in it and why it might be dangerous.
And moving to the United States, the House of Representatives has overwhelmingly passed a new bill to fight anti-Semitism. The measure, which will now be considered in the Senate, allows the Education Department to restrict funding to universities that tolerate anti-Semitism. However, critics say the bill has been brought to choke the ongoing student protest against Israel's war in Gaza. So what exactly does the bill say, and how, in fact, will it affect the protesting students? Our next report explains.
The United States has introduced a new bill to combat anti-Semitism. The bill is called the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, and it was overwhelmingly passed by the House of Representatives on Wednesday. The move comes as pro-Palestinian protests grip college campuses across the country.
We're here to discuss the little Gazas that have risen up on campuses across America and the liberal college administrators and politicians who refuse to restore law and order and to protect other students. These little Gazas are disgusting cesspools of anti-Semitic hate, full of pro-Hamas sympathizers, fanatics, and freaks.
Now the measure will go to the Senate for consideration. And if it were to become law, it would codify a definition of anti-Semitism that was created by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, or the IHRA, in 1964. So what exactly does the new bill say? Well, it requires the US Department of Education to use IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism when enforcing federal anti-discrimination laws. The definition says that anti-Semitism is, in part, a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. The law would also allow the Education Department to restrict funding to colleges which are perceived as tolerating anti-Semitism. However, critics have warned against the controversial measure. Rights groups have raised concerns that the definition might conflate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. They say the federal law already prohibits anti-Semitic discrimination and harassment. Hence, the new bill is not required. Critics are also worried about the bill hindering free speech of students. They say the bill could be used to stifle campus protests against Israel's war in Gaza. For weeks, students protesting Israel's military actions have been facing accusations of anti-Semitism, and politicians have continued to criticize the widening demonstrations.
To every college president, I say remove the encampments immediately, vanquish the radicals, and take back our campuses for all of the normal students who want a safe place from which to learn. But when you see that video of raging lunatics and Hamas sympathizers at Columbia and other colleges, no, but when you look at it, I say, where did these people come from? I don't know people like that. I mean, I deal with a lot of people. Where do they come from?
The pro-Palestinian protests that began with Columbia University in New York have spread to more than 40 campuses across the United States. The police have arrested over 1,500 protesters so far, using rubber bullets and tasers in some cases.
You have been warned as per City College to leave the campus. If you refuse to leave, you may be placed under arrest.
On Wednesday, police officers at the University of California ordered protesters to leave their encampment or face arrest. The order came a day after a night of chaos that saw violent clashes with counter-protesters.
The life-threatening assault we faced last night is nothing less than a horrifying, despicable act of terror. For over 7 hours, Zionist aggressors hurled gas canisters, sprayed pepper spray, and threw fireworks and bricks into our encampment. They broke our barriers repeatedly, clearly in an attempt to kill our community. Campus safety left within minutes. External security the university hired for backup watched, filmed, and laughed on the side as the immediate danger inflicted upon us escalated.
Several students left the protest site after the warning, but hundreds remained inside, putting on helmets, masks, and goggles. The bill comes as students call for universities to divest from Israel and urge the US government to call for a ceasefire. But President Joe Biden has pledged steady support for Israel in spite of the worsening humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip.
Everybody's expected to pick a side in this thing. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not big on being a side picker, but as far as the bill goes, I mean, I think that you have to be careful about um, anything that might censor people individually. But as far as the part of, um, you know, the campus itself, like no campus should tolerate any hatred against any group. At least not the campus itself seeming like they're, they should allow free speech and protesting if it's peaceful. But
Do you think this has crossed the line?
gosh, this is a sticky situation. I think I've heard a lot of people say that this could possibly be used to censor people individually from certain thoughts or certain beliefs, or like it said, criticizing Israel. Nothing, no group or community is above criticism. So if it went that far, then that's definitely an issue. What do you think about it?
Well, I'm not in favor of censorship, but I am for the rule of law. I don't like a bill like this because it is, I think, overreaching. It's like a knee-jerk reaction to a problem rather than something that's thoughtful and methodical. It's based on emotion. And I think the politicians are just trying to give some members of the public what they want. So I don't think that's responsible, and it's going to result in unintended consequences. I look at the protests themselves as a form of free speech, an exercise of free speech, but I think the protests have crossed the line because they have occupied buildings, they've vandalized property, they're preventing people from accessing buildings to go to classes, so they're infringing on other people's rights. I don't think that's right. So that's where you start to cross the line, as far as I'm concerned. And in some cases, they're, intimidating people, even going so far as to terrorize people. And you see, some of that activity from the other side too. So it's bringing out the worst in people. But you have to find that right balance. I think the laws that were in place already were probably adequate to deal with all this. I don't know that you needed additional legislation. What they need is proper enforcement of the law while keeping the emphasis on public safety and just making sure people don't get hurt or do anything on the side of police that might become escalatory.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I feel like this this situation is getting very out of hand. It's getting extremely out of hand, and I feel like we're kind of losing. It's making us lose what they're actually talking about in a way. And like me being a person that doesn't pick sides, as a black person, I'm not Jewish and I'm not from the Middle East, but I pay attention to everything. I analyze nearly everything, and I do not, in my opinion, I don't hear enough people that have the sentiment that the Israeli hostages matter. What happened on October 7th is absolutely horrible. We don't hear barely anything about it, but that also that Israel's response has led to a lot of civilian deaths. And it's like when I'm not able to see people that can like reconcile both of those truths in their mind, it bothers me because I wonder what's going on. I'm like, it's not my groups, but I can look at this and my heart can go out to both sides and be like, hey, what should we do?
Yeah.
What can be done?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
You put out a video. I'm going to play one of yours, actually, from your Twitter. You put this one out recently. I think it's part of the problem, and you, again, called this out so perfectly in this very brief statement that you made about the culture glorifying anti-Semitism on social media and platforms like Twitter.
Yo, Hitler is alive.
Hitler is alive today, man. And on X here, I'm seeing people openly celebrating Hitler and trying to make it like, oh, he was right, and always trying to find something to be apologetic. And we're talking about Hitler. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an issue. That's a major problem. We're in a moment in history where a lot of mindsets are shifting and changing about stuff. A lot of world events are going crazy. I can't even begin to say anything about it. But I didn't have it on the bingo card for 2024 that Hitler was going to be resurrected. That's crazy.
Crazy. That's so crazy. And, you know, this is a question that I have. Again, maybe you can make it make sense. It's a change. I guess it's a change in the black community because you're a history teacher. I'm a historian. I'm sure you've studied and taught the civil rights movement in your class. But you're probably aware that the American civil rights movement was powered in large part by Jews who were in solidarity with black people because they had lived through the pogroms of Europe and the Holocaust. They understood what it was like to be persecuted and killed by white people. So they stood in solidarity with the black community. They were involved in those freedom marches. Jewish lawyers were representing all these black clients who were going to jail for demonstrating. And now that's been turned on its head. I'm sure you've noticed that in the black community, and you look at a lot of what's going on with these protests and a lot of the anti-Semitism, there's a hell of a lot of anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish sentiment now in the black community. And in fact, one lady who's become famous, or rather infamous, over the past few weeks at Columbia University is their former spokesperson. I say former because the video I'm about to show you went viral, where she's calling for killing all the Zionists, saying that Zionists, in other words, Jews, don't deserve to live.
My name is Sasha
Take a look.
I'm one of the associate directors in the Center for Student Success and Intervention.
I'm Kamani James. I use he, she, they pronouns. Zionists in my DM wanting to meet up and fight. I don't fight to injure or for there to be a winner or a loser. I fight to kill. See y'all in New York, January 2024.
So that's specifically what we're going to be discussing today. Do you see why that's problematic in any way?
No.
Do you think that there's a serious weight in taking someone else's life?
I think there is a serious weight in taking someone's life. And at the same time, I think that taking someone's life in certain case scenarios is necessary and better for the overall world. And so I personally have never killed anyone. Thank the Lord that no one has put me in that position. Though when Hitler died, the world rejoiced. Everyone looks back at that time period and said that Hitler needed to die because he was exacting an immense amount of harm against the world. And so just like that, during the Haitian Revolution, their Haitian slaves had to kill their masters in order to gain their independence. These were masters who were white supremacists. What is a Zionist? A white supremacist. And so let's be very clear here. I'm not saying that I'm gonna go out and start killing Zionists. What I'm saying is that if an individual who identifies as a Zionist threatens my physical safety in person, i.e. puts their hands on me, I am going to defend myself. And in that case scenario, it may come to a point where I don't know when to stop. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
There should not be Zionists anywhere. Zionists are Nazis.
For my identity as a Black queer woman in New York City, obviously, if I'm on the train and I'm sexually assaulted or harassed in some way, like I may turn around and slap somebody, right? Doing and saying that versus saying that, you know, you fight to kill. And you made a comment earlier where you stated that you may not know your own strength behind why, or you may not have the resistance to stop, right? That is kind of like what I'm taking from what you were sharing, that it could get to that point.
Okay, both of them have taken a break, everyone. So these are two black women. I just wanted to throw that out there. So I'm not too keen on going too, but yeah, these are two black women in the meeting, just in case y'all couldn't tell already. But these are two black women. The meeting's a joke. They definitely were hoping that I was gonna walk back the I fight to kill. Your initial letter from your office mentioned that this meeting will determine if it needs to reach or go to a disciplinary hearing. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And so that's what I'll be being notified about in 24 to 48 hours.
That, and it can also be that we need additional information. All of our letters are standard, so it depends on kind of like everything that you disclosed to us today and what we discussed.
Right. Okay then, well thank you.
No problem.
A lot of people agree that Hitler needed to die in order for world order to move forward and in order to establish some inkling of world peace. And so if we can agree as a society, as a collective, that people, some persons need to die if they have an ideology that results in the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. If there are people like that who exist, shouldn't they die? Why would we want people who are supporters of genocide to live? I'm confused. Zionists, along with all white supremacists, need to not exist because they actively kill and harm vulnerable people. They stop the world from progressing. Oh, okay. Thank you. What? Thank you. And so, be glad, be grateful that I'm not just going out and murdering Zionists. I've never murdered anyone in my life, and I hope to keep it that way. That meeting was so dumb. I actually kind of hope they do kick me out because I've been meaning to travel to South America. Obviously, the United States would never support the murder of Netanyahu, but imagine how many lives would be saved if possibly, right? Because we all know that the replacement will probably, but you know, philosophically speaking, the death of a maniacal genocidist like Netanyahu in Israel, his death would theoretically mean that many people would live. Zionists, they don't deserve to live comfortably, let alone Zionists don't deserve to live. The same way we're very comfortable accepting that Nazis don't deserve to live, fascists don't deserve to live, racists don't deserve to live, Zionists, they shouldn't live in this world. If we're truly in it, and when I say in it, if we're truly living life and living in this world in order to achieve peace, the existence of Nazis, white supremacists, Zionists, these are all the same people. The existence of them and the projects they have built, i.e. Israel, it's all antithetical to peace. It's all antithetical to peace. And so, yes, I feel very comfortable calling for those people to die. And with that being said, Kamani is signed out. See you in New York real soon.
Boy, that's painful to watch. So let me get this straight, Kamani. You're saying that in order to achieve world peace, we have to kill all the Zionists. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. And, you know, I'd love to dismiss her as a random nut, but she's very well connected politically. On her Twitter, you got a picture of her back when she was a he, pictured with President Obama. these past couple of weeks. She's obviously very friendly with members of Congress, the squad, Ilhan Omar, AOC, personal friends of hers. They visited the encampment at Columbia, and you could see video of them hugging and, you know, all that. So, and she has designs on running for Congress. Now, after that video went viral last week, obviously the student group that she's with distanced themselves from her. The school put her on a temporary break. They didn't actually suspend her from Columbia, and supposedly she was kicked off of campus, but she was right back on campus the very next day, and she's been there at the protests every night since, so she's really not facing any discipline. So I wanted to ask you what you thought of her, and if you could explain to me if you have any idea why the black community is turning so anti-Semitic. What's up with that?
Yeah. Well, I'll start off with that. Like, there's black people that are involved in it, but I think that the majority of black people are kind of just taking a step back and not involving themselves in it. But you have people like this individual that is involved with it on a high level. But at least from my perspective, my view of it, I would probably say that probably a good 70% of the black community is not thinking about Israel or Palestine. But for the people that are involved in it, I think that they're like, black people are not going to identify and stand with people on Israel's side or with Jewish people, at least currently not, because the view of it is going to be that black people that are involved in those movements are typically going to be with whoever seems like they're being subjugated. Right. So in this situation, when you have Israel and their response to October 7th, black people are going to identify with Palestine automatically.
Because they're seeing it through a racial lens, right?
Well, they're seeing it through a subjugator and subjugated lens. So whenever there's anything that's happening on the planet, whenever we're able to, I'm not speaking necessarily for myself, I'm just saying this is the typical black mindset. Whenever we see anything through that lens, we're always going to side with the subjugated, even if it's not white versus black. It could be anything, whatever it is, whatever group of people seems like they're under. That's who black people are going to go with. But as far as what this person is saying, man, I mean, like, it was a very interesting video.
Yeah. Black really Nazis. I did not see that one coming. Yeah. I did not see black Nazis coming.
Like, but there she is saying that Zionists are the Nazis.
Right.
I think I would want to know what that person's definition of Zionist is, and like if that matches up with
Nazi,
what white supremacist,
no, not with Nazi, but like would it match up with what a Zionist definition of what it is? Because
now that is the question.
You get what I'm saying?
You got it. Yes.
I'm wondering,
because you look up the Oxford Dictionary version, the actual definition of Zionism. It's really anybody. Doesn't matter what color you are, and there are Zionists of all colors. Just someone who simply believes that Israel has the right to exist as a nation state. That's literally the definition of Zionist. So I don't know how that became such a dirty word, or why people like me, I'm a Zionist, I believe Israel should exist. Does that mean I have to die too?
Yeah, so and that's why I say that, like, because I feel like the definition of these things are important. And I think that the definition that that individual has is probably different than people that would identify themselves as that. And when you have that large of a difference, then just like you identify yourself as a Zionist.
And I'm not a Jew.
Yeah, so it's like, well, under that whatever their definition is, does that mean, like you said, does that mean that you fall within that? And
scary.
It's perfect for them because they get to cloak their hatred for Jews in a word that lets them hate an even bigger group of people.
Yeah, I feel like
exactly.
You know, like the thing that I was saying about Hitler being alive again, like we're seeing a major shift. And prior to all of these events, it was like very taboo for you to say anything about Israel, and that has shifted. But it was interesting to see that along with that shift, that a lot of engagement came with saying such horrible things. And you know, I kind of have to detach. I have to detach Jewish people from what Israel's government is always doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's
Right.
not the same thing. Just like in America or in Canada, like, you know, I had to separate Justin Trudeau from all Canadian people because that, like, our people don't represent all of us. But there's definitely been a rise in hate and anti-Semitism towards Jewish people, them not being able to come on the campus because they have, I think it's called a yarmulke on and different stuff like that.
Mhm.
And to me,
They
being
have
critical,
Zionist-free zones at these encampments, literally
yeah,
with a sign out front. You know, Zionists not welcome, can't
yeah,
come
it's a
in.
blanket term, it
Zionist-free
seems.
zone.
Yeah, they're using it as a blanket term, it seems.
As a cloak.
And
Right.
there's, you know, there's people, there's Jewish people that also are hurt by the loss of life in Gaza. You know what I mean? Like, they're, because their government is possibly taking the wrong turn in certain points, that doesn't mean that all of the people agree, or because you're a Jewish person walking on a campus that you shouldn't be able to go to class or should be intimidated. But we're not seeing people that are necessarily like logical thinkers. So,
You
you
can
know,
say
you're
that
gonna,
again.
that's
And
the
you know,
nicest
it's
way I can say
like we were talking about with fatal error in the black community. I see this as a fatal error of our society,
Mhm.
this rise in anti-Semitism, because what starts out as hate speech is going to escalate into real life violence if you glorify it, right?
Do you see how much engagement it gets on Twitter? You see that?
Yes. Oh my God,
When
yes.
you go and you look into the comments, and
Mm.
like, I'm just like, yo, what the heck is going
Right?
on?
And a lot of those accounts commenting and saying the most vile
Yeah,
things, you look at their
loads of
profile
them.
picture, go browse their profile, and they're literally posting images of Hitler and praising Nazi Germany. It's the weirdest
And you
thing.
know what? People are acting like I'm asleep for still being in the group of people that thinks that Hitler's trash. They're acting like
Right?
I didn't take the final red pill because I don't know
Uh-huh.
that Hitler was actually right. And I'm like, you know, it's like
What?
whatever it is that you think about, you know, elites, because I think that elites are different from us. Whatever it is that you think about different groups of elites or whatever, why would that mean that a group of people, an entire group of people, should be hated and destroyed based off of ideas that you have about what some of them might do that's bad for the world?
That's right. That's right. And that was the same justification that was often used against black people in this country and on the college campuses and the integration of schools. And this is going to be hard to watch, guys. This video just emerged today. It's pretty disturbing, so I'm going to give you a trigger warning before I play it. And this is just the real world consequences of glorifying this stuff. And we see more and more incidents of this. This happened at the University of Pennsylvania. And another trigger warning, if you're sensitive to strobe lights or flashing lights, you might want to avert your eyes before you watch this. This is a Jewish student who was encircled, you know, like they do at these encampments if they suspect that you're a Zionist or if you're visibly Jewish, they will surround you. And it reminds me, unfortunately, of what we saw in the American South 60 years ago, you know, where they'd gang up on a black kid and you ain't from around here, are you, boy? So this might be difficult to watch.
Well, you have been shining a strobing flashlight in them for a long time.
That's correct. I'm doing it for a reason. Yeah.
You
getting the message?
Maybe. I don't know. I walk this way.
You ain't walking into the camp. You're not walking into the camp. Turn around. You're barking up the wrong tree, kid. Turn around. Get the fuck out of here.
We've had a long night, bud.
We're done playing games, motherfucker. You know what's good for you, you're gonna get the fuck out of here right now. I fucking mean it. You want me to start counting?
I guess. What'll you do when you finish counting?
You wanna find out? Come on, scurry along. I'm running out of patience.
It's only been 5 minutes.
Oh, I've had a long night with motherfuckers like you.
Not motherfuckers like him.
Oh, no, you're right.
Those
You're
aren't
right.
pussies.
Yeah, no. They at least had some guts.
This guy doesn't seem to have much behind his
No,
face.
no. Looks soft. He's got soft hands.
It's definitely a soft face.
Yeah.
Fragile.
Yep. Hope you got a good doctor.
Hope so.
You got health insurance?
Yeah, how's your dental plan? Come on, run along now. Play somewhere else.
Gotta get to school soon, too.
Yeah.
You guys have to get to school.
Well, your principal's gonna worry about you.
I see.
Hey, you got something on your shirt there.
Show you something funny.
Ooh, got him! Got him! Fucking clown. Get the fuck out of here. Come on, we're done with you.
Fortunately, that's as far as it went. I was so afraid that they were gonna kill him. They have apparently identified at least some of the people in that video. To me, they look too old. I mean, it's hard to tell because they have their faces covered. But they sound too old to be college kids. So they might be outside agitators. I don't know. I don't think anyone's been arrested for that yet. And I wonder if they'll be prosecuted. Thoughts?
I want to hear what Rick thinks about it.
Yeah, Rick, you first.
I think I
I've been talking too much.
I expressed my opinion quite forcefully when I ran that clip just a short time ago on our newscast.
Had it on Maverick News tonight.
Yeah. Dare I repeat myself? Fuck those
Well, you
pricks.
called them assholes. Fuck
No, I
those
said fuck
assholes,
those
I think.
pricks.
That's what you said.
That's what I said.
Yeah. Plain English. What do you think,
It's pretty
Ken?
simple, right? Fuck those pricks.
Yeah, I got you.
Fuck those pricks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I'm always in the camp of, like, I feel like there's two distinct groups in my mind, and there's a lot of different groups, but the two distinct groups that I have in my mind are people that think through, or at least try and think through everything they do, and people that don't. And it just seems like, why would you do that to somebody? You know what I'm saying? I feel like you're not thinking through. It's like you're not thinking through your own purpose of even being there. Because if your purpose of being there is because you're hurt by what's happening in Gaza and you don't want that to be going on, I would think that you wouldn't be intimidating a random college kid that's walking around and just like being mean and being a jerk to him. I don't understand why that would happen. Or if you're glad that you have free speech, and that rather that kid agrees with you or not, that kid also gets to exercise his free speech, even if that means that he's going to stand out there and not like what you're talking about. Like, you can't sit out here and occupy the campus. Like, you guys aren't some type of military force that needs to be out here intimidating kids who parents probably is paying for some tuition. It doesn't make sense to me, and I just think that it's just disrespectful. Like, that's not love. I'm all about love. Like, if you're not showing love to people, then it's a problem.
Damn right. And there's a comment on the screen that I highlighted from one of our correspondents here at Maverick News, Rising Dragon. He has been out covering the protests for us at McGill University in Montreal this week. He's been out there a couple of times. And he didn't have an easy go of it. As he said there, he kind of got encircled himself last night by some of the protesters. And I don't know if he's Jewish or non-Jewish, but he was media. And immediately they're distrustful if you're press, right? Because they think you're going to make them look bad or something. But they would not talk to him. I mean, he's gone there twice, and he could barely find anybody who would talk to him. Just, like he'd ask, why are you here? What are you protesting? What are your demands? What do you want? And they just sit there and stare at him with their little masks on like they're hypnotized or something. They cannot speak. And you notice when you see them making the occasional speech, they always have their phone in their hand, right? And they've got a script that they obviously didn't even write. I don't know who writes the script.
Yeah.
But they're reading somebody else's words they don't understand. They don't understand the impact of those words on other people. And so we end up with violent, anti-Semitic shit like that.
Yeah, one thing that I would want to pose to you guys that I was wondering your opinion on, because there's like the world is going crazy. This is just one thing. Like there's a million things we hadn't even talked about.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that there are like genuine agents of chaos within each movement whose job is just like to try and just destroy everything and make sure that like people that have sense aren't able to come together properly?
I sure
you think
do.
That?
Yeah, Rick?
Yeah. And I think that what we're witnessing here is the work of a variety of actors. I think you have foreign influence. I think you have money from probably more than one foreign government in play here, where they're just, adding fuel to the fire, nudging things along to create disruption within society. I keep saying this over and over again, and there's a lot of evidence of that. And we've seen research done even within the last week showing that there is dark money. There is even money from George Soros flowing around in there, documented because of the NGOs and the political activist groups that are attached to this. And then you trace the funding back, and you can see where it's coming from. And a lot of this stuff is just meant to disrupt. So you have people who are quite literally paid to be there.
And it's more than just, people ask, where do they learn this? Some of it they're learning from their radical professors, but a lot of it is coming from this really well-funded, slick propaganda machine through online influencer accounts that have a lot of power, hundreds of thousands or millions of followers.
Yeah.
And I know there's foreign money behind it.
Yeah, and I feel like what they want to see is just chaos between us, because there's a whole world that's looking at us over here in the Western world, and I feel like it's like they don't want the protests just to be peaceful. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what side they actually would lean on, but I think the side that they lean on is just to
lean on both.
Right.
Just to not have things be okay. You know what I'm saying? Because
they
what
hate
would
America.
That's horrible.
Yeah. They're fueling both sides because they're trying to break the country apart. So they've got everybody.
Where do you think that comes from? Is that like is it like a Russian influence? Is it like a like you're speaking of George Soros?
Keep going.
Keep going.
Pretty much any enemy, China.
Yep.
You know.
And then I would say that there's even domestic influence there too, because you're in an election year. So you probably have political groups domestically that are throwing money at this stuff too to further their political interests.
It's insanity.
It is insanity.
Seems like, a summer of riots is an American tradition in an election year. We've been doing this since 1968.
It's horrible because, like elections, like if you take for instance in Africa, elections are times of great instability in Africa. It's like the nations will be like just caving in, right? And it's not like it's been perfect in America, But like within the last 30 years, like our elections have been pretty, nice and stable. And it just seems like now everything is just starting to cave in more and more and more. And I just don't think there should be so much chaos.
But you see, people don't understand that in a democracy, there's constant chaos and there's a constant existential threat to any sitting government, because there's always someone in opposition who is legally allowed to be there to oppose you. So there's always a degree of instability in a democracy. And that's the beautiful thing about it. But you see, if you have a properly functioning democracy, you have those political parties functioning within the system with at least the common goal of keeping the country together. The vulnerability in a free liberal democracy is that when you get people acting in bad faith, political groups acting in bad faith, or foreign influencers who abuse or exploit free speech, freedom of expression, and democracy itself to come in and basically try to circumvent the system, take over not just the government, but the system, then you have a real problem, because that becomes an existential threat, not just to the government, but to the country itself. That is what we're actually facing right now. And you see, the people who sit there and say it's a uniparty, those people are disingenuous or misinformed. Because even here in Canada, where we have a parliamentary democracy, it works well, because even if your party loses, you still have a voice in Parliament. They're part of the system. So yes, it is sort of it's not really a uniparty, it's a unisystem. So, but it works well for people because it is a government of the people. If you're a conservative but you lose the election, you still have some members of parliament who can be elected, and they get to have input and speak and question the government and hold them accountable. And that's why a system like that really works. But if you have outside influencers coming in saying your vote doesn't count, because, obviously they're all on the same side. They are on a side, the side of, in my case, Canada. They are on the side of the system. That's why we have His Majesty's loyal opposition. They're not there to destroy the system and rip the country apart and take over the government that way. Yeah, they're there to take down the sitting government, but not dismantle and destroy everything. People don't understand the concept, and that's what's going on in the United States, in Canada, in the West. You have outside influence coming from other governments who are corrupting things, and their intention is to destroy the system. And in that way, they neutralize the threat of the great superpower of the United States, of democracy itself, and bring in something else. And if people embrace this, and we're seeing it on campuses right now, when they embrace this, that will be the end of democracy in the world if they are successful, and that ultimately is their goal. Take it all down, burn it to the ground, and replace it with something else. And as people support this, they're certainly not going to get democracy or freedom on the other side. They're going to get the exact opposite, and people here are destroying themselves.
They're not thinking. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ken.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't want to talk over you.
Like, what you say is really beautiful way of putting it, but I feel like the people that are destroying it, they're not thinking enough to understand what's even on the other side, but that's why they're able to be used as pawns.
Because the people who are criticizing and inflaming the situation are not really being genuine. They're not telling people what they're offering on the other side, because when you're in a position of opposition like that and kind of lurking in the shadows, or they're not being asked to explain. Nobody wants nobody is even confronting them or saying, well, what is it that you're offering then? Because their only objective at this point is to simply destroy everything. So they don't have to explain themselves.
And they don't have a plan.
They don't have, well, they do, but they're not telling you what it is. I learned this very early in my career as a journalist because I was coming across these people. They don't tell you what they really are. They'll cloak it. They'll use carefully crafted language to give you old ideas spun up using different words. right? This is what we're seeing with anti-Semitism right now. And
Right.
I've been trying to tell people, especially over the last
Redefining words
right,
like
it's like
anti-Zionist.
the elites, the elites, the elites, the elites. All that is, that's Jew.
Yeah.
And we've been hearing all of this rhetoric over and over about how, you know, the elites are responsible for controlling the banking system, the pharmaceutical industry, the media. They control the media. Okay? And then it occurred to me as I was listening to all of this, and it took me a while to figure it out because they're pretty slick. And they use new language. They just kind of reshape it a little bit, repackage it, and then sell you the same old anti-Semitic tropes that they've always sold you, but it's just cloaked in new language. And you just take that one word, and that's what they've done here, in a very slick way that people aren't even, that it's right in front of people, and they're not even seeing it. I told people they're going to change that word, elite, to Jew or Zionist. Okay? They're using Zionist because it makes it more palatable. Right? To say you hate the Jews, you can't get away with that these days. But you can say Zionist. That's quite politically correct and encouraged. All right? But they've just replaced it. And you take that single word and attach it to all of those problems, blame all of these things, many of which are actually exaggerated and not even true, but you can blame all of that on the Jews simply by replacing that one word elite. And that's what's happened. I mean, it's very slick. I hope people are waking up. Have you got the other eye open yet? You were half awake. Open the other eye so you can see the other side of the story.
And I hope that the black community opens their other eye and studies some history. Thank goodness we have good history teachers like you, to remember that the Jews stood in solidarity with the black community against when they were being oppressed. And now the black community is not returning the favor. And I hope that they will when they see their Jewish brothers and sisters suffering on campus the same way that they did once upon a time. And I know it seems kind of like, how does this all tie together to your film? And I hope that I've connected.
Oh no, I like
the
talking about
dots.
everything.
Yeah,
all the
'cause it
stuff you
does
guys been
connect.
talking about, I've been paying attention to, like before we were talking about it. This is what I'm always looking at, so I'm good.
You so totally get it. That's why I've enjoyed this conversation so much. And I know that we've run a little bit over time and there's still
Yeah, that's
so much
cool.
we didn't get to scratch the surface on. So I hope you'll come back.
I'd
but
love to.
Before we go, I want to kind of tie this up in a neat little bow with one more clip from your film, because I think it does kind of tie everything we've talked about tonight together, in that there's a larger agenda at play here to destroy America by destroying our culture, destroying our good relations that we've built between the races and all the people who live on this stolen land, all of us colonizers of every color. You know, we're all colonizers. We all came here from somewhere else. But they're trying to destroy us. There are larger, darker forces at play. And in the case of the black community and the country as a whole, we're destroying ourselves from within.
Want me to be real? Can I be
Yeah.
real? All right, I'll be real with you, my guy. So end of the day, if you want to make a record, about killing animals, they not going to play that. They not going to push that. You want to make a record about, raping women, they not going to play that. But you want to make a record about killing your own people or selling drugs to them, funny, they'll let us play that.
Now, you hate rappers.
Yes. They never get out of character. They promote number violence and killing of another nigga. Every black woman he talk about is a bitch. Now these niggas getting to the point where they don't even like their mama sound like no more in the lyrics. They some unruly characters, homie. And they are bad representation and a misrepresentation to children. And they don't give a fuck.
I directed a bunch of rappers, people like Gucci Mane, Snoop Dogg, Lil Yachty, the list goes on and on and on, okay? I learned a lot of things. Here's the truth. The truth is this: a bunch of young black male rappers keep dying. You know who's not dying? Record executives. The record executives that push for them to continue to make songs and create a culture that is obsessed with death, drugs, and sex. Period. The industry is obsessed with it, but those record executives, they're not dying because they don't push this culture on their own people. but they're encouraging you to push it on yours, and they're paying you handsomely to do it.
I got a business to run.
You're gonna make Dame Dash take this clip and call you a culture vulture.
A culture vulture is someone who comes from outside of a culture and makes profit by promoting negativity into a world that they aren't from. Most record label executives aren't from the black community. It's a business. Everyone can participate. But when multi-billion-dollar corporations from outside of your community promote death to the masses, a true civil rights violation is taking place. Record labels own a large portion of the black community's collective conscience. Power over the mind. People have attempted to wake them up for generations, and they ignore us. If spending billions of dollars promoting evil to the black community for decades isn't a civil rights violation, then I don't know what is. Some artists have even spoken out, calling the music business a demonic industry.
Because I learned it's a demonic industry that I chose to be a part of. You gotta understand, using me as entertainment, and this shit becomes self-destruction too.
Some claim that the music industry is literally demonic, theorizing about artists selling their souls for record deals. I don't think it's that literal. The closest you could get to selling your soul is agreeing to continually promote negativity because it sells. Record labels understand this, so anything that could move the community forward is met with apathy. That in itself is true evil. What type of self-respecting businessman are you? The vultures are picking away at our bones while ignoring our cries for help, but change is on the way. Fatal error. There is hope. A new reality is being made available. We're standing on the brink of an entirely new dimension. This is the promised land. Crime rates will drop drastically throughout the entire nation, saving countless lives for generations to come. The mass awakening that's starting will function like a rising wave of consciousness that inspires healing in every area of life. The effects of this mass awakening will reach far past hip-hop culture and the black community. The house was on fire, and our own people were fanning the flames. In this new reality, those same people will help us put out the fire. I'm talking about a revolutionary change unlike any we've seen for generations, but we need your help. Fatal Error is just the first step in a multi-tiered plan to massively resolve the issue. We need this to go viral. Share this everywhere. Make posts about Fatal Error all across social media. Make noise. Once Fatal Error has blown up, the next step will be carried out. And to any record labels or executives who are having a change of heart, or anyone who can help with the mission, message us directly at fixthefatalerror@gmail.com. Future generations will look back to this era as one of the most revolutionary moments of all time. Let's fix the fatal error.
That's pretty powerful stuff. I applaud you for serving your community, your people.
Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm not sure where Lori went. I think we're probably getting close to the time of wrapping up the program. But Ken, is there anything else you'd like to add or think that we might be missing?
Well, I mean, the last thing I want to say, I guess, to that last piece is, you know, we have to do something to change the world. Every culture has their own issues. Like, you know, we're talking about Gaza and stuff like that. And a lot of people have issues with Middle Eastern culture, right? Middle Eastern culture subjugates women. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if you have somebody within a system that has a major cultural issue, and they're saying that they can radically change that we can actually fix something, make it better. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the word out about that because I haven't found that there's enough people within my own culture that care. And you know, if there's any way that anyone can support that, I would greatly appreciate it. I feel like you know, like even if you can't give to the GoFundMe, it's not like I'm just trying to get money, but I believe that with being able to get a little bit of funds, that I can push it out and it can have such a change in the world that, you know, it'd be difficult for us to even understand how different things would be. Like I literally am, I might be crazy, but I literally think that if we were able to change this, that crime is going to plummet in the Black community, because, you know, thugs are celebrated. If we create a situation that if you're a thug, that everybody's face has changed to you, and now they're looking at you like you're a piece of crap,
Right.
your activities are going to be heavily limited, you know, and I believe that we can trigger that into happening.
Yes.
So
we have to shun that socially.
yeah, it has to be shunned. It can't be celebrated.
Exactly, brother. Exactly. And, you know, the film is available on YouTube. I want to encourage everybody to go watch it. It's Fatal Error, and it's available on the Reelblack One channel. Last time I looked, it had about 11,000 views, some odd. It ought to have 1 million views. So I hope that if you like it, that you'll share it. And like he said, help that film go viral, because it's a message that's positive, not just for the Black community, but for America, for all of us, and for the world. And man, this has been a great conversation. I just have one last question that I didn't get to ask you in the 2 hours that we had. You and I met through supporting Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a volunteer on his campaign, and I just wanted to ask you, tell me why you support Kennedy, why he's your guy.
Yo, because a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about are people that think through things, and I feel like that he represents that. Like I think that, like, because I don't even know all of his points on everything that he believes, but what I do see is everything that he talks about, that he is able to like logically analyze it. He's able to change his thinking based off of new information. Like, it just seems like he's a real human. He's not like Biden or Trump, who they try and use people's differences to just make us fight against each other. Like, he's trying to unite people together, and he sounds like a president. You know, like he I don't think that he's a perfect person. I don't agree with everything that he says, but I just agree with someone that sounds like they genuinely want to unite people. And, you know, Biden, God.
Oh, Lord. What can you say about Joe Biden?
Yo,
but if you don't vote for him, you ain't Black, right?
Yo, that
Is
was
that
so
what he said?
disrespectful. That was so disrespectful of
It
him.
was.
It was so disrespectful. But he's just like, I feel kind of bad for him, to be honest. And I don't even want to disrespect him, because I want to have a certain level like of respect for the president, and I don't want to disrespect him deeply, but I don't think that he's fit to be like doing what he's doing, like how we're all able to talk and converse in like a clear way that makes sense. Like, I'm not finding that a lot of the stuff he's saying, it's like I feel like he's just mumbling through stuff and doesn't understand a lot of things, and it makes me wonder how much in control he is.
Oh no, we're losing your audio again.
Oh.
Darn it.
It must be because I'm talking bad about Biden.
That's it.
But yeah, I'm all for I'm for RFK. I'm voting for him. I'm talking to people about it. You know, not the perfect person in the world, but nobody is. But he thinks, and he's trying to unite people.
Well, and what I love about Bobby is he's honest about his flaws. He'll be the first to tell you he's not a perfect person. He's been a heroin addict. He's been through hell in his life, and that he's on a path of growing every day, learning new things every day, and like you said, changing his mind accordingly. And I made a point tonight. I didn't want to tell you at the start of the show because I didn't want you to get nervous.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you at the end. I did reach out to a couple of people on the campaign who were advisors directly to Bobby, who are involved in Black community outreach, Jamel Holly and Angela Staunton King. I reached out to them tonight to let them know that you were on the show. I told them about your film, and I asked them to watch. So I have a feeling that they are watching or will watch the replay. And I hope that they'll pass it on to Mr. Kennedy, because I think he would really like your film. And I think
that would be crazy.
Wouldn't that be great?
That would be crazy.
Have you had a chance to go see one of his speeches or meet him yet?
No, I don't think that he's came around to Tampa. I've been paying attention. I don't think he's came around to Tampa, but I do think that he can win, but there also has to be somewhat of an awakening for us to make that a reality. And so like that's why I like to talk about it and make posts about it and stuff like that. But he should be the president. If we're between Trump and Biden, he should be the president. That's what I believe.
And probably for the same reasons, I think you and I support him, because we know we had 4 years of Trump, and we know how divided the country was, and that the division only got worse.
Yeah.
Under Biden, it's the same thing. It's only gotten worse. And I feel like Kennedy's our only hope to bring the country together.
He sounds like a real man. He sounds like a real president. And I don't know. Even when I see, I might hear him say something that I don't typically agree with, I'm fine with it, because he actually comes across as a real person that's thinking through things, and that if he feels like he's wrong on that he would have the ability to say that and change direction. I don't find that Trump or Biden do that typically. Like, Trump seems to be very narcissistic, and Biden just doesn't seem like he might even be coming up with his own thoughts.
You can say that again. So tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you, and how they can support you.
Yeah, so Fix the Fatal Error on Twitter. So I'm Fix the Fatal Error on Twitter, and I guess that's where I am. That's really.
You're mainly a Twitter guy, huh?
Yeah.
That's your platform.
Yeah, that's what I'm in, and if you guys
fuck
want to
Facebook.
support. Yeah, I don't use Facebook really.
We've all
Or
been banned
Instagram.
from Facebook on this platform.
Twitter is exciting. It's a crap show, but it's exciting. Never a boring day.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's definitely never boring.
Guys, I want to thank you guys a lot for having me and talking. You guys also seem like very balanced, thoughtful, and logical people, and that's what we need.
Oh, yeah. Got you that time.
I'm the weirdo.
Yes, he is, but we love him.
You're a
that's why he's locked in the basement. His studio's in the basement for a reason. His wife keeps him locked down there so he can't cause too much damage. Don't let him repair the plumbing.
To let you know.
Whatever you do, don't let Rick anywhere near the plumbing. I'm just kidding.
It's been a privilege to spend the time here with you tonight, Ken.
It sure has.
I appreciate y'all.
I'm so pleased that you could make it. We've been trying to make this conversation happen, and it's so important. So thank you, and we'll continue it. We'll have you back in the future, because it's just been a delight, and I hope that our viewers enjoyed this as well. And I guess we'll wrap it up. We're kind of running late tonight. We went an extra half hour, but I could talk to you all night, Ken. You're awesome.
It was fun. I had a good time. Because there's nobody that I can talk to about this stuff, but I'm always paying attention to it.
Well, you can talk to me anytime.
Appreciate it.
You're always welcome here at Maverick News. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you back here next Saturday night at 9 o'clock Eastern. Until then, peace.
In a universe full of ideas, we draw lightness from the dark to a place where opposites attract. Right meets left, positive touches negative, sparking an explosion of truth. Because politics makes strange bedfellows.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.